Now he's up, taking off the broken wire. Yeah, together with his tools. The monkey from USA. Hey monkey, I take you videos. Say hi to your subscribers. Oh, see?
Hello.
Oh, he's up and the spreader. Not really up, below the spreader. That's what he's doing right now. Take the wire off, then bring the fit onto the shop and buy new wire to replace or change with a new wire. Okay, that's for the update for the oversells over the rainbow. Bye for now. Good morning.
So here's the end. What was the upper end of the port aft blower shroud? See, all the wires broke off. There is 5. There are 5 wires remaining in the swedge fitting. But you can see the swedge fitting is fine. Doesn't have any cracks. It's got this little seam in it. That's from the swedging process. But otherwise, it's all good. No cracks or anything. This white powder on here is from the Philippines, because we were in the downwind dust path of a bunch of big barges that were constantly being loaded with soil from that was being transported as some kind of fill or additive from Carmen to somewhere else in the Philippines. So this all unraveled, plus down here a little further, 2 of the strands also broke. I don't know if that was maybe from tension, as the tension of the shroud went on fewer and fewer of the individual wires. Anyway, it kind of unraveled down here about that far. You see that white coating on the inside? It's also from that crap that was in the air in the Philippines. It's on the outside of the wire too. Doesn't seem to adversely affect it. Doesn't cause any corrosion or anything like that, because it's basically just ground up stone dust, or maybe limestone or something. But even there you can see the inside of the shroud's wires on the inside, and the core doesn't have a significant amount of corrosion. I'm really not sure why if I can get into focus here. Really not sure why these wires broke. Shouldn't have been from the load, because the safety factor on these wires is pretty high. Just too much wiggling, I suspect. Not this way, back and fore and aft, but side to side. Maybe from the weight of the aft planks oscillating around. That's kind of my guess anyway. So today we'll go out later and see if we can't find some 1x19 wire. If not, I did find 7x19 pretty reasonably priced actually. I could double that up, because the 7x19 has about 75% the strength of 1x19, but it does stretch more. If I double it up, that should eliminate the problem with the stretch, and certainly more than compensate for the strength factor. Anyway, that's the fun of today's project.
Good morning, everyone. Say good morning. Captain up high now.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
You're shooting right up into the sun here.
Yeah, he's in just I hoist him up. His weight is like 150 kilograms. Joke. 70 kilograms, 150 pounds. Then yes, he did this. The wire na. Are you okay there? Yeah, he's okay. The boat not too much motions. Not so windy here. So yeah. The monkey over there. Monkey! So that's for today. Our project is to replace a new wire shrouds. Bye for now.
Hello, everybody. Well, this is the final stage of the temporary repair for the shroud. What I did is I had to change the turnbuckle to a double jaw because I had to use thimbles for the wire, both down here and up there on the tang on the mast. And I measured this. I got 14 meters of this 6mm 7x19 stainless cable. And I ran the wire up through the thimble and down. So I've got both ends here. And they overlap from about here down to there. So I put I pulled the wire as tight as I could by hand, had the turnbuckle turned all the way out, put the two clamps here, two clamps here, two clamps here, and then snugged up the turnbuckle to pull the wire relatively tight. And then I put the stainless steel bulldog clamp here, pushed it down as far as I could towards the thimble, and did the same thing up above. And then I went ahead and tightened the turnbuckle back to a good tension for the shroud. Now, 7x19 and it's 6mm instead of 1/4 inch, so it's about 70 to 75% the strength of 1/4 inch 1x19. But since it is effectively two pieces, that makes it about 50% stronger than a single piece of 1/4 inch 1x19. And by having two pieces, it should eliminate any potential excess in stretch. Of course, I'll have to keep an eye on the tension over time of the shroud. But I think for a temporary fix, it should be just fine. These are where the resting position for my running back stays. Got one on each side. So I just make them up there when they're not in use. This short section of hose, it's 1.5 inch inside diameter. Pretty heavy wall, nylon reinforced hose suitable for potable water. This was the deck fill for my aft water tank. Caused me quite a bit of consternation when I was 2 days away from Sri Lanka. I had to switch from my forward water tank, which was empty, to the aft tank, which I thought had 30 gallons of water in it, only to discover that it only had about 3 liters of water in it. So I had to change my plan to go to Cochin in India on the southwest coast there and come in here to Gali in Sri Lanka. Now that doesn't look bad now. It's been sitting like this, no tension on it for pretty near a week, I guess now. When actually installed on the boat, because I had it bending in a pretty tight radius, it was actually like that. So there's almost no room for the water to pass the blockage caused by this kink in the hose. Of course, this was quite unknown to me the last time I filled the tank. The water backed up the fill hose, and I thought, oh well, the tank is full. Well, as it turned out, there was almost no water in the aft tank. And fortunately, we were close by to, I think I had 3 little bottles, about 1/3 of a liter in each bottle of fresh drinking water. We had other drinks, so we wouldn't have died of thirst in 2 days, that's for sure. So, one of the first things I did upon getting here was going down in the cabinet that's under the aft bunk, where that hose leads to the aft water tank. And I can only surmise that the tension on the bend and the heat radiating from the aft starboard fuel tank caused that hose to collapse due to the sharp bend. It had been fine up until recently. It was a real bear getting into that locker with a sawzall. It was about the only way I could see to try and cut that stuff. Trying to get in there with a trim knife because the space constraints was not a real viable option in my opinion. Getting in there with a sawzall was also quite a challenge, but I managed to hack that piece out. And I just so happened to have a 90-degree elbow with a hose barb on each end. It's PVC. And I installed that. So that eliminated the problem of the sharp bend in that hose. There's no real pressure on that hose or on any of the fittings other than perhaps a little bit of head pressure if the tank is overfilled. But usually I'll run the pump on the tank after filling it to make sure there's no standing water in the filling tube, because if you understand hydraulics, you know that that's if you got water standing water in a tube going up any level, in this case it'd be about 2.5 feet. That's the same as having 2.5 feet of water pressure on the entire tank. Not a good idea. When I got here in Gali, in Sri Lanka, I went back to do a casual inspection of my steering system. which is all the way aft in the boat. It's right back there. There in the back, you see the backing plate for the backstay. That's the transom. There's the steering quadrant and the rudder post. Nice piece of 2-inch solid stainless steel. Anyway, when I was inspecting things, since under normal circumstances it's fairly dark in there, but I got in there with the flashlight and looked closely, and this ear was cracked and broken completely away from the rest of the body, right down through here. So with my driver interpreter, my tuk-tuk driver, seems a pretty good guy named Bennett, he knew of this shop, and he said that's where all the fishing boat guys go to have metal work done for their boats. And I was pretty impressed with the shop when I first looked at it. I mean, these guys were doing their own bronze castings and machining things like stuffing boxes for rudder posts and prop shafts and stuff, all kinds of stuff like that, marine related. So I whipped this thing out in the two pieces, and I said, see this here? Can you weld this back together? Oh, sure. No problem, I said. Can you make a duplicate? And he said, yeah, but it'll take a couple days because I had to make a mold. He was thinking about making a bronze casting. I said, no. What I want you to do is duplicate that in steel. Well, I guess that was a mistake, because as much as I tried to explain to him the necessity of the spacing on these holes, all four of the holes, having to be exactly the same, spacing this way and this way in order to be able to bolt it to the quadrant. Well, it took 3 trips and I don't know how many tries before we finally managed to fabricate a new bracket out of steel. It's like 10 mil steel, so it's way hell for strong. And I'm keeping this fixed one as a backup should it ever be needed. So, get the flashlight here. You can see there's the new steel piece. Like I said, it was a bit of a challenge for him and his workers to get that fabricated correctly so that those 4 stainless steel bolts that bolt into the quadrant, so that the holes were in the correct location. But hopefully it should be fine for many, many years to come.